Good evening, everybody. We're back from Super Bowl 59. Candy Ebling and I had an opportunity to go out to New Orleans, and what a great time we had out there. Took a week off, but a lot of great stuff coming down the pipeline. You're going to see a lot of it start to come to fruition beginning next week. We didn't have time to chop some of it off, but thanks, Daniel Berry, for showing up. Glad to have you on. Great show tonight. Candy Ebling joins the crew. Mel Farr, George Eichhorn, that's your crew tonight. Hopefully, Bo Crouch will get on a little bit later, but I know we're streaming through them anyways. Thank you very much, Bo. We're going to talk about the Super Bowl, a couple of coaching moves, and more Super Bowl. Let's get right to it. Joshua Dore, welcome back to the big show. All right, well, let's talk about the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the ratings, and they were big and mammoth. Super Bowl 59 produced 127.7 million viewers, the most watched Super Bowl ever, and on Fox. Okay, and then the halftime show produced 133.5 million through Kendrick Lamar. The previous record was set by Michael Jackson, 133.4. You know what, Candy? You don't need a lot of research there. I did it for you. What are your thoughts about the fact that this Super Bowl did what it does? And just to preface everything, Candy and I were able to watch it over at the IP Resort out in Biloxi, Mississippi. We appreciate those people entertaining us. Okay, Candy, go ahead.
So as we are evolving, and let's face it, nowadays everybody's got a TV in every room of the house. There's Super Bowl parties. Everybody's watching it. There's more TVs. There's going to be more viewership. That's awesome. I mean, great for the NFL. Great stage to showcase what was your top two teams. Now this might have been the best game. And Joshua Dore, your thoughts? Great halftime show. I think no matter who you're going to have for a halftime show, some people are going to really like it and some people aren't. Because let's face it, it's normally music related. Some people like certain types of music better than others. So whether you liked it or not, it's kudos to the NFL for putting on such a great, on a grand stage. And for all the people that joined in and watched it, kudos, it was awesome being there up into the game. We were not there for the actual game, but a lot of the events leading up to it. So that was an awesome experience.
Yeah, Joshua Dore, another thing to point out, we didn't have a chance to watch the halftime show because we were waiting for a table over at the FanDuel Sports Bar over there for about an hour, but we ended up getting the table worked out. But from what I hear, judging by the numbers don't lie. Mel, some thoughts about the halftime show?
The halftime show, like Candy says, I mean, depending on what kind of music you like, is going to depend on, whether or not you like the show or not. But there was a record number of people, record number of people who watched Kendrick Lamar. So I would say a lot of people were very interested in seeing the halftime show, at least trying to figure out who this guy was, find out what he's about, and tuned into the show. But it's surprising. I mean, the NFL, they do a great job of marketing their product, and we've talked about this before. I mean, I've never watched the NFL Honors, and I watched it. I think that was on Thursday night, and I couldn't believe the production. I mean, it's like watching the Oscars or the Emmys or something like that. I mean, or the Grammys. It was a fantastic production. I mean, they've done a great job of marketing that product. So it doesn't surprise me that the viewership was what it was on that particular night. I actually thought it would be a little bit down because the game wasn't so good. I mean, it got out of hand so quickly. So I was like, man, the NFL is not liking this. And then I was kind of waiting to see what the numbers were going to look like. And then I saw it was 120, 126. And then, today it came out at 127. And then I was really surprised to see Kendrick Lamar's numbers as well, because he's not really mainstream. He's not a mainstream person, but a lot of people in the rap community, I don't know anything about Kendrick Lamar. I'll be honest with you. I only know that one song with, the little Drake diss track, and I only get that because where I get my news, TMZ, they talk about that, what's going on with him and Drake. But other than that, I couldn't tell you one song that he sings. But, I was interested in seeing the halftime show, obviously with the controversy with the one song that he's being sued by Drake, and the record company's being sued. So I was, interested to see if he was going to go ahead and perform that song, and he did. But it's no surprise to me that the numbers are what they are because, like I said before, the NFL does a great job of marketing their product.
Okay, George, what's your take on it?
Well, yeah, the numbers are up. I kind of figured they would be because, there's still like all the Taylor Swift effect, with Kansas City and obviously going for a three-peat. Unbelievable. Unbelievable matchup, whether it was Philadelphia or whether it was going to be Washington or Detroit. I mean, I knew the numbers were going to be very high. And like you guys said, I echo your sentiments. The NFL does a super job, pardon the pun. They do a great job on these big games, and obviously they get the viewership growing, it seems like, year after year, which means more money in their pockets because the commercials will probably cost even more next year. Maybe they'll be $10 million or some crazy number for 30 seconds. But yeah, all in all, they did a really good job. And I kind of, I'm not a fan of the halftime show per se. I have very limited music kind of interest these days. I mean, I go back to the old days of the 60s and 70s more than anything else. But I'll tell you what, I mean, it was a hell of a show. Getting all those entertainers, all those dancers, configuring that whole program, unbelievable. It's unfortunately that one man snuck in with a Palestinian flag, I guess, and they hauled him away. But and then Serena Williams made a guest appearance dancing too, which was kind of cool in the halftime show. So all in all, it was a great event. And like you said, Mel, unfortunately, a lot of people, I'm sure, tried to tune out when it was such a lopsided game.
Yeah, George, amazing how you brought that three-peat effect up. Let me take that a little step further, because as I was going through the pressers all week, I asked Andy Reid about the same thing, but the only thing I did was I mentioned Pat Riley's name, and he actually answered the question candidly. Otherwise, he didn't care for the question. And when you think about the three-peat, had Kansas City won, Pat Riley would have made a boatload of money on it. So
Yeah.
that's really unbelievable how that all kind of played out. But Andy Reid was pretty fun, and I want a special thanks to the Kansas City Chiefs media communication guy. I didn't even know the guy, but he allowed me to get a lot of good questions in. And Candy will tell you we were spot on with everything that we were really trying to do out there. It was a pretty good experience. The Chiefs people treated me really well. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some things with them. But Pat Riley, Andy Reid, and I think the three-peat certainly was an enticement to get people to watch the game. 40-22 was the score was obviously a lot worse than it indicated, but that's what the windup was. If you're fantasy football, you like the score, and because that's what was called window dressing. All right, onwards we go. Berlin to host the regular season game in 2025. Tell Mel, what are your thoughts about Berlin, Germany getting an international game?
I think that's pretty cool. I had the opportunity back in 1989 to play over there in Berlin. And for me, it was pretty cool. At that particular time, that's right when the wall came down. So we got to walk over there right to the line. We're right there in Berlin. We got to walk right there to where the wall was, and actually got to, you could purchase pieces of the wall. They had them in gift shops, or you could actually go up to the wall and chip a piece off yourself and get a piece of the wall. But it's interesting to see at that particular time how different East Germany looked versus Germany. The cars were all those little communist-looking cars, whatever those things look like. They're all the same color, the little four-door, little small, compact vehicles. But it was kind of interesting. And then for me, playing in that stadium, where in 1936 the Olympics were held, and thinking about Jesse Owens and what he did and how he showed out in front of Hitler and kind of showed what other people can do other than the Germans. I thought that was just being there in the same grounds where I knew where he was. That was kind of neat for me.
Right.
But I think obviously we talked about the NFL again. They're a marketing machine. They got a game. They're going to do a game in Australia this year. I don't know how they're going to do that, but they are. The Rams are hosting a game down there, a regular season game, if I'm not mistaken. They're going to be hosting a regular season game down there. They're trying to grow this product, and great. I love it, but I just hope that the players get to participate in this growth as well when it comes to revenue sharing, because they're the ones that are out there that that make this product what it is. Obviously, because of the way they go out there and play week in and week out and prepare. But so I hope they get an opportunity to profit from this growth that the NFL is going to obviously that they're trying to get, and they're obviously will capture with exposing more people to the product.
Well, I know in the past, had the NFL decided to have teams overseas, Berlin's talked about London, and there'll be a couple of other ones, but those are the two. And I remember NFL Europe was great many, many years ago. So would love to see NFL Europe. I know it was way too expensive, but if I were looking for front runners, I think Barcelona, Berlin, and London, and I don't know who the other team would be, but those would be three that would be at the top of my list. What are your thoughts, George, about the NFL going to Berlin?
Yeah, I agree with Mel. I mean, it's a great opportunity not only for the players and the teams, but their fans to travel to Europe to see their team in action. And you brought up a good point, Scott. You know, the European League, I know it was kind of ahead of its time, but I give the NFL a lot of credit for trying that when they did. I mean, it's obvious that they want to play more and more games overseas and going to Berlin, such a historic city for obviously not so good reasons sometimes, going back in history with the evil guy there. And I'm not going to, in any ways, but I'm glad you brought up Jesse Owens. Great memories, Mal. The Olympics and what he did for the United States and for the world to stand up to that thug back then. But Berlin is such a beautiful city now, and you're right, the wall is down. I mean, it's so great that people have an opportunity now at these sites, like you mentioned, Berlin and Germany and London and Spain, and also maybe Paris and Australia is coming up too this fall. So I look forward to that, and it's a great exposure for the league, and it continues to be a great exposure.
All right, well, we're pleased to be joined by Bo, so we're going to get Bo up to speed. So what we're going to do, Bo, is go with the first topic, then we'll bring you in on the viewership. What are your thoughts about the NFL going to Berlin to play a 2025 game?
I mean, it's great. Anytime they can expand the game is good, right? Domestically, they've done just about what they can. So they have to go beyond our borders. And Germany and Europe, they have a pretty strong contingent for football anyway. So, I mean, when you look at Germany itself, they have their own German football league, and then they're also fielding teams in the European Football League. So for them to bring the NFL over there makes a ton of sense.
Okay, and then we'll bring up the speed on the other one. As we talked about, top of the hour, Super Bowl, incredible ratings. 127.7 million viewers watched it, most ever. In the halftime show, 133.5 million. Eclipsed Michael Jackson at 133.4. Some thoughts about the ratings on both ends, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, as they continue to grow the game beyond our borders, you're going to see them continue to break every record. Even if domestic numbers started to slide, it wouldn't matter because you're going to get a lot more worldwide views as well. But it was funny how split people were on this halftime show. Like I thought I enjoyed it. I don't know. I thought it was fine. But yeah, a lot of people were losing their minds about it. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, for them to continue setting records makes sense. I mean, it means their marketing machine is doing work.
Okay. All right, Katie, you know what? You'll have the final word on the Berlin topic. Go ahead.
So I think we've all kind of talked about it. The NFL, and we forget this sometimes, is a business. And the business wants to grow and expand and make more profits. And how do you do that if you just stay where you're at? You don't. So the only way for them to really expand is to go internationally, go to these different stadiums. Berlin, this is not the first time they've actually played in Berlin. They have played in it before. They have a history over there. They are going to be, it is a grass surface. So that's a good thing. But the NFL is smart. They know how to market their product and what they want to accomplish. They want, obviously, they've talked about more regular season games, and I'm sure, Scott, at some point you're going to talk about that because we were a part of a group that we listened to the players' side of that. But marketing yourself internationally to another market, going to that market to bring in some of those fans and reel them in, get them excited, more marketing dollars, more dollars for sales of, oh, you need a jersey, or you want a jersey, you want a favorite team.
Right.
And to put different teams going over there makes it more interesting too, because now, like, it's the Colts that are going to Berlin. They're one of the teams that are going. The Jags always went to London. The Packers and the Eagles played in Brazil. It's just different teams so that they can sell more merchandise, more uniforms, more jerseys, I should say. The NFL has got it down. I mean, they played, like you just said, viewership was up on the Super Bowl. They know how to market their product, and this is just another way to do that.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars have made their existence playing in London for sure. More power to them, really. I mean, when you think about it, that's how they've been able to stay even. I know they're going to be building their stadium of the future, but for a while, they needed to play one or two games with all the sellouts that you had out in London over at Wembley Stadium. We know Shad Khan and Wembley Stadium, they practically own everything that's about that stadium for sure. So great stuff. Everybody knows that the NFL makes billions and billions of dollars, the number one revenue sharing sport on the planet, and decisions like this are a major reason why. We'll go with one more topic, then to a station break. Eric Bienemy, the former UCLA assistant head coach and offensive coordinator, has agreed to terms to join the Chicago Bears to be their running back coach under Ben Johnson. Bo, some thoughts about the hire?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he wanted to find his way back to the NFL, so this is his shot at it. I like the hire. I mean, he's a good coach. I feel like he hasn't always got the best shake of things, but he's a good coach. So good to see him back in the NFL.
Well, and he's going to be doing under Pete Carroll. So I like the hire of Pete Carroll in the first place. Then add Chip Kelly to it. Then you have a couple of old Pac-12 guys.
He's going with Ben Johnson. He's one of the Bears, Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking about former Pac-12 people now reunited. What did I say?
Gotcha.
All right. That's where I was trying to draw the connection. All right. Senior moment there. But yeah, he's going to be joining Pete Carroll in Las Vegas, and a couple Pac-12 people reunited, and they face each other, Oregon against USC. Am I getting that right? No, I hope.
No.
We understand what you're saying. He's going to be joining back in the NFL where some other Pac-12.
Yeah, Pac-12 connections is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
That's what I meant. All right, people. There we go. Got it right on third time. Great crew picking me up when I needed them. All right, Mel. Take it from there before I put my foot in my mouth again. Don't like to do it. I believe that now she'll keep that foot on the ground, not the mouth, which I'm doing a really good job back here on the set. Go ahead, Mel.
Another time or two myself. But, I'm happy for him. He wanted to get back into the league. This is a way for him to get back in the league. It just shows you how quickly things change, overnight. I was really, you think about it, who just got hired to be the coach at New Orleans?
Kellen Moore.
Moore. So Kellen Moore left. Well, he ran out of Dallas and went to San Diego, and that didn't go that well. That ended real quick. He lands on his feet in Philadelphia, which I really didn't think was. I didn't see that because Kellen likes to throw the ball a lot, and he changed. He evolved. He played to his offensive strengths. And they ran the ball 56% of the time and had a very successful running game, obviously. And so his name, obviously jumps back to the forefront as far as head coaching candidates. But I mean, he could have easily gotten buried. Now for Bienemy, he left. He left Kansas City to go to Washington to try to make a name for himself, to show that I'm the one that's really calling the plays, and that really didn't work out for him because that only lasted a year. Then Ron Rivera gets fired. Then he goes to UCLA. The offense was kind of sputtering. That didn't work well. They say, UCLA says they fired him. He says, no, that was never, it was always the plan just to be there 1 year and leave and go do something else. And so now he's no longer, he's got to work his way back up. Now he's a position coach versus being a coordinator. So he's going to have to work himself back up to the point where his name is mentioned again for a head coaching job. Now, maybe he should have taken that Colorado job or whatever that college job was when it was offered to him 3 or 4 years ago before Carl Durrell got that job. Maybe he should have taken that job back then just to see what he could do, because look what Deion Sanders has done with that job. But I'm happy for the guy. He was a football coach. He likes to coach football. Obviously, he has no ego, so he's fine with taking a positional position there with Chicago, and maybe he can build his resume back up again to where he gets another opportunity to interview for head coaching jobs.
Thanks, Mel. That's where I erred a little bit. I was thinking 2 steps ahead. So the Eric Bienemy hire is an excellent hire for Ben Johnson. It really is. And Ben Johnson is determined to make sure it's a good ground game. I'm glad you guys set the record straight on that. Let me go to the Raiders so I can get that out of the way. Then I'll turn it over to George and Candy to finish out both of them. I like the hire with Chip Kelly going to the Raiders, leaves Ohio State. Michigan gets their 1 win against Ohio State, taken away from you, George. Sorry, pal. Okay, so Michigan is 1-0 against Chip Kelly at Ohio State. Don't have to worry about the next series with the Raiders. So I'm happy that Chip is going to land with Pete. And with that said, I better turn it over to George. I said my point on 2 topics. I'm going to defer to the crew. Go ahead, George. Pick the topic you want. Start with UCLA, and then you go to the Raiders.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm happy for Eric Bienemy as well. I mean, but like Mel summed it up very well. I mean, he's not a coordinator. He's going as a positions coach. And but he should do very well. And I think Ben Johnson made a very nice hire. And I saw where, Eric's got some connections, okay? Obviously, all these coaches do. As our friend Coach Bono, who's not on tonight, will tell you, it's all about who you know and networking and all that. And the same goes for Eric. I found out that he was been friends with Kevin Warren, who is the main man at the Bears, of course, the former Big Ten commissioner, knows him real well. And then he had connections with, as Mel mentioned, going back to UCLA and helping them out for 1 year, even though it didn't end up being much of a year, obviously, for them. But Eric's got a good record. He's made a lot of good contacts in the league. Yes, it's a step down. He's not a coordinator, but I thought it was a brilliant move by Ben Johnson, as I thought it was bringing Dennis Allen in too as his defensive coordinator. So the Bears are getting a new look. The Bears are obviously going to have a lot of looks this year from scouts and from other teams because they've made so many changes. They hope to. That we'll wait to see whether it helps them on the playing surface as well. But I'm all for it. It's a good choice to bring in Eric, Scott.
All right, well then, you know what? You might as well comment on the Raiders topic, and then we're going to turn over to Candy. She gets to talk about both. And by the way, Bo and Mel, you have talked about. Have you guys both talked about the Bienemy and Raiders, or which one are you missing?
I talked about Bienemy and Raiders. Well, Bienemy.
You did. Okay, so you talked about both. What about you, Bo?
Yeah, I talked about Bienemy. I didn't talk about the Raiders, but I mean, Kelly going there. It's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between Chip and Pete. Okay. That's going to be kind of interesting to watch. But just because they do tend to have a little bit different personality. But I mean, they need good coaching. So I like the hires.
Okay, good. All right, Candy, guess what? You get both topics. Then you get a station break, and then you guys get me off the hook. Go ahead, Candy. Start off with Bienemy.
So the Chicago Bears have won pretty big in the month of January. I mean, let's face it, landing Ben Johnson as a new coach, now Eric Bienemy, who, let's remember what his position was, a running back. Who better to coach the running backs than a former running back himself? The Bears also, as much as I hate to admit all of this because they're in obviously the division of my team, but they have a chance to upgrade the roster because they have high cap space and they have extra draft capital. So between coaches and all of this extra, and a lot of people predicted them to not do that bad last year. And yes, I know they only finished 5-12, but they were starting to improve. They might be a team we really need to watch for because they could be a surprise sleeper that we all kind of think. Last year, there were 8 team captains, and yet they called for more coaching. They wanted harder coaching. Well, they're going to get it with the group that they just hired. I think they're going to get harder coaching. And sometimes that's what young teams need. Is because they're not used to coach. They're not used to the NFL. They don't know how to prepare. And so who better than people that have been in the role, who have done it for how many years, who have good experience, and who maybe are a little tougher. Some teams need, the younger teams probably need a little tougher, whereas some of your older teams, maybe don't need, they need the players coaches or what, but I think this was a good hire for them. They could be a team you got to watch out for.
All right, talk about Chip.
Mr. Chip. I was kind of surprised he left, but I mean, he always wanted to get back in the NFL. Obviously, this was his way to do it. I think, like Bo said, it'll be very interesting to see how sometimes you don't think coaches' personalities will meld well together. So it'll be very interesting to see how that, who gets the play calling, who gets, who does all of that. That'll be an interesting dynamic with that team. So, but I mean, today's probably one of my sadder days because obviously the football season is over. Now we got to wait how long, between yesterday and today, and we're waiting for the NFL draft. Am I excited that it's going to be today? Yes. And again, I will go back to Scott. I know we were just at the end. We covered the Super Bowl. One of the places or Radio Row was display from the NFL draft for Green Bay promoting their draft and stuff like that. And I know we're going to be promoting and having a show on. We'll be putting up a video because you did an interview with them. So that's cool. But I just think it'll be interesting. This next year will be very interesting.
Well, I'll reiterate one more time. The Pac-12 is alive and well in Las Vegas because of Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. That, and of course, Eric Bienemy. I'm glad he's back in the league. Excellent player. And I'm going to go with what Mel said. I think he should have taken the Colorado job when it was offered to him. I really do. Didn't happen, but you never know where it'll go. But that said, I know we are going to go to a station break. Candy, go ahead.
This show is brought to you by the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company, who published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword was written by none other than George Eichhorn as well on the panel here. Great book, great read. Talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the business and how it has changed. Lots of great stories. I think you'd be really surprised on all of the people that he's interviewed, and you have to name drop. Go check out the book. There's a picture of Scott, a young Scott with young Muhammad Ali. The book is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you'll find a plethora of great content. Our YouTube channel, if you see the red subscribe button, that means you haven't subscribed to us yet. Please do so. We're going to have all kinds of great Super Bowl content going up there, all kinds of great questions that Scott asked numerous players and other personas that we saw there. So definitely check it out. Check out our website. If you like to listen to the audio version, you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. Twitter is @TribuneSouth. If you want to be a guest on the show, email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you missed any of that, either you can hit the rewind or watch it scrolling on the bottom.
Well done, Candy. Great point, too. I want to talk about some of the clips I have, but I'm only going to mention it in this context. Some of those clips I have are going to lead to topic ideas that we'll have on Inside the Pigskin. So stay tuned. Again, we got in at 9 o'clock Eastern time, so I didn't have time to put together one set, but there's a lot of great stuff coming on. Great stuff, Candy. Two more topics I want to get to. One of the most humble players I've ever seen, and I finally got to know this because I had a chance to ask him a question. His name is Jalen Hurts. Named the Super Bowl MVP. He says his journey, I'm the same kid that went to the national championship, lost, got benched, and had to transfer. And you want to talk about financial discipline. He earns $255 million, and he lives in a $2K a month apartment. Okay, Bo, you talk about humble. Jalen Hurts is just a good kid. And the one thing about those team media availabilities, which I think are really unbelievable, is I had a chance to talk to a lot of the key people, at least once, in some cases, numerous times. What are your thoughts about Jalen Hurts? Well, Excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, he's a winner, right? Like he's had to go through adversity at the college level, and of course in the NFL. He actually loses a Super Bowl a couple of years ago, so I mean, he was able to bounce back from that and grind away and get the win, get the Super Bowl MVP. So I mean, you got to feel happy for him, right? Like he's done it the way you're supposed to do it. So yeah, I mean, congrats to him. It's awesome.
Mel?
Yeah, I've always been very critical of Jalen because I knew what he was capable of doing, and I always wanted more for him, just like he wants more for himself. And I think 2 years ago, and I think I told you guys, when you asked us our projections or predictions for this game, who we wanted to win or thought we were going to win, I said Philadelphia because I wanted Jalen to avenge that loss that he had 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, because I believe he outplayed Pat Mahomes that game. There's just, a couple bad plays here or there, and that ended up costing them the game. But he showed me a lot that particular game. Now, the next year wasn't such a great year for the team in general. But Jalen, like he said, he's like, people have finally realizing he's won on every level. That's all he's done is he's won, but he's won a different way. There's different ways to win. And we've gotten so accustomed nowadays with these passing numbers. We're all enamored by the passing numbers. We're all in love with these 6'4", 6'5", statuesque individuals standing in the pocket and delivering the ball. But that doesn't necessarily win you Super Bowls. I mean, you think about this. There's different ways to win. So Troy Aikman, if you look at his career, he averaged 199 passing yards per game, and he's a Hall of Famer. 32,000 yards is all he has. He averaged 199 per game throwing. Now, Jalen, as far as for the games that he started, he's at 222. That's what he's averaging. And the team is winning. So why would you mess with something that's working? Why would he change to become something that people want him to become just because that's what everybody else is doing? He's winning doing it his way. The coaches know, hey, we put Jalen in this type of situation, he's going to win the football game for us. If we run the ball more than we throw the ball, give him opportunities where he has wide open windows to throw the football, that's how he can excel. Why would they do something else? Oh, did you lose me?
No, I'm here. I'm listening.
Oh, okay. Why? I'm sorry. Why would they do something else? It's working. And Jalen, he's just doing exactly what he's asked to do, and he continues to win. I was so happy for the kid, and especially the way in which they went about doing it. That game got ugly quick. It was. I mean, it was out of hand quick. They went out. I think they got the ball first, went 3 and out, and then Kansas City. They ended up punting. I don't know if it's 3 and out. Whatever. But they ended up. I was like, whoa, this could be interesting here. Then all of a sudden, Philly started putting on points, and then you saw that pass rush getting there with just 4, and man, and that game got out of hand quick. It got ugly real quick, and I was really happy for Jalen because I knew he would play well. He had that one bad throw. Don't know what he was thinking about. Other than that throw, he played a perfect game.
I mean, the 2 Super Bowls looked almost the same, right? When you look at his performance 2 years ago, his defense let him down, right? He had a couple of bad plays. He had a couple of bad plays in this game. Just the defense was wildly different.
Yeah, 2 words, Vic Fangio. So the only thing I can say about Jalen Hurts, and as I got to know the guy, very humble kid, again, living in an apartment, $2K a month, is a Super Bowl win in his pocket. Nobody can ever say anything about the guy again. So he's earned my respect. And he seemed like a pretty down-to-earth kid, right, Candy? You saw the media availability. You talk about a very level-headed kid. And, of course, he found a way to get Saquon Barkley incorporated in the offense. And how did that work out, George Eichhorn? When you compare what Jalen Hurts did, your take on Jalen Hurts.
Well, if you would have told me that Jalen Hurts would gain more yards rushing, listen to this, 72 yards on 11 carries and 1 touchdown compared to the all-pro, all-everything who deserves a hell of a lot of credit for this season, named Saquon Barkley. 25 carries, 57 yards. So all I'm saying is the Chiefs were effective. Yeah, they were effective in shutting Barkley down, but they were not effective in shutting down the man of the hour. That's who you're talking about, Jalen Hurts. Hey, listen, Philadelphia, we all know, is an unbelievably hard city to win in. next to New York, I think they're probably the toughest fans, or maybe just the same as New York as far their expectations go. And like you said, Mel, 2 years ago, he just wasn't able, and his team wasn't able to support his effort as they tried to beat Kansas City a couple of years back. But look at this, 17 out of 22. What a wonderful game, both on the ground and throwing. He put all the criticism aside. He concentrated this season. I mean, this team won 18 games, folks. 18 games, 18-3. And what a tremendous year for Jalen. And like you said, Scott, down to earth guy. And Candy, you heard him there in person. I was very impressed with him. Composed after the game when they did the interviews on the field, just a true man of his faith, and just a really down to earth guy, and man, very confident in his role. And even though some fans and media in Philly maybe gave up on him a year or two ago, not anymore, man. What a great game, and congrats and hats off to Jalen on a tremendous job.
Yeah,
he had a great post game quote. Also, when he was doing his presser, he said, "I already had a purpose before anybody had an opinion."
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Well, it just makes you wonder. Now we always talk about quarterback coaching duels. We'll see where Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts goes. All right, Ken, you have the last word on this. One more topic to go before we wrap it up. Go ahead, Ken.
So the quote that always and has been ringing through to me is the quote that says, "Losing hurts worse than winning feels good." And I think the Eagles really 2 years ago felt that. And I think they used that motivation plus the motivation that they didn't want to see. Because let's face it, everybody was talking about Kansas City three-peating. And they used that motivation and losing 2 years ago as motivation to beat them this year. One of the other quotes that you always hear is defense wins championships. Philadelphia proved that defensive line, they didn't have to rush. They rushed with 4. They didn't bring extra. And yet look at how Mahomes had to run for his life. How much of that game? I said this earlier that Philadelphia's defense was there to stay, and as long as they kept focused, that Kansas City all year has been finding ways to win, to squeak it out. They weren't dominant like some of the teams in the past, and Philadelphia brought it. They brought it. They were determined, and their defense won that game. I mean, I'm not saying, don't get me wrong. Obviously, Philadelphia on the offensive side had to go score points. But it was a lot easier for them to score points knowing that the defense was taking care of their side of the ball and really holding Kansas City to low numbers. Because Kansas City's defense did hold, like George said, Saquon to a lot fewer yards than most people thought he was going to gain. Jalen had a great game. Obviously, he out-rushed Saquon. But that was multifaceted, and I think Kansas City just wasn't ready for that and all that different. So kudos to the Eagles.
All right.
And defense wins. And the quote that I'm going to keep saying is, "Losing hurts worse than winning feels good."
Well, Terry Ostosky did comment, average 326 pounds, 6'6". There you go.
Yeah.
Big Macs and
That's true, too.
Awesome protection for Hurts. Yeah.
Good, great stuff there, Terry. Appreciate you. Final topic of the night stays in Philadelphia. Since Jeffrey Lurie bought the Philadelphia Eagles in 1994, all they've done is gone ahead and won 2 Super Bowls, 4 NFC championships, 11 NFC East titles, and 19 playoff berths. Is that good enough? I don't know. What do you think, Bo? He's done pretty well in Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting a competitive team out there, and it's something that prior to that, they hadn't consistently done. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a Philly fan, you got to feel good about it.
Pretty good numbers, right, Mel? By the owner?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the coaches he's had there too. I mean, Andy Reid there for a long time. Then Obviously, they had Doug Peterson there for a minute. So yeah, I mean, he's done a great job. But let's not forget about what they've done out there in New England as well. What the Kraft family has done over there since they've taken over that franchise. They've done a stellar job in making sure they have a competitive team out there. Obviously, they caught lightning in a bottle when they drafted that kid from Michigan at 199, so that helps. Yeah, I mean, that's all you want. You want an opportunity to be able to win as a head coach, as players. You want to feel like you really have a legitimate chance to be the last one standing in February.
Hi, Penson. How you doing? He'll be on tomorrow night. All right, George.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that's been said by Bo and Mel. I mean, Lurie's had a really good stretch there. I mean, again, you want to win more than just 2, but heck, most teams haven't won that. Almost all the teams except for Kansas City and New England, as Mel mentioned. So great ownership, great support from the front office. Like you mentioned too, great coaches have come through, and it's just a tremendous franchise right now. It really is. I mean, and obviously they sell out every game. They could sell out twice as many as they sell, but it's a great franchise. The Eagles are flying high, pardon my pun.
Okay, George. Let me tell you, many years ago, I actually graduated from a high school called the Lakeland Eagles. So any Eagle, and of course, I started with the Southfield Lathrop Chargers and ended up going from a Charger to an Eagle, and that's why I flew away with my diploma until I ended up at the USF Bowl. So there's a little Eagle synergy here. Okay, Candy, before Eichhorn gets me flying to something I shouldn't be saying.
So the Luries had been season ticket holders of the New England Patriots franchise since it began in 1960, the year the American League Football League was founded. In 1993, he tried to buy the New England Patriots, but dropped out of the bidding at $150 million. His name also resurfaced when they were talking about the sale of the Los Angeles Rams. He was a potential investor in a bid for Baltimore expansion team with Robert Tisch, who subsequently bought 50% of the Giants. 5 months later, he agreed to the Philadelphia Eagles. On May 6, 1994, for $195 million. Now, interestingly enough, in 2017, Forbes valued the Eagles at $2.65 billion, ranking them 10th amongst NFL teams in value. By 2024, this valuation had increased to $6.6 billion, with the Eagles ranked 8th amongst all 32 NFL teams. So now winning this one, you can only imagine that number is even going to go up. Kudos to him for all he's done for that team and the franchise and the success that they have had.
All right. I'll make my comment short and sweet. Jeffrey Lurie, hear from me, people, is the most underrated owner in Major League Sports, period. You know why? Lets his football people do their job, and he lets his sports do what he has to do. Period. Jeffrey Lurie is the most underrated owner in Major League Sports. Exclamation point. I'm done. With that said, we're just about ready to wrap up the show. So we'll let Mel lead off. I want you to let everybody know how they get a hold of you. But before you do that, okay, Yusuf Marshall pops in. Let's get that comment up. How much is my team worth right now? If you ask members of our fan base, they sound like it's $650. All right, you need to break that one down. I'm lost there, Bo. Yusuf's a good guy. Thanks for being on here.
Mr. U? They call me Mr. U?
Mr. U. Look at that, Mr. U. I love this guy. Hey, Bo, do me a favor. We got to get this guy back on here, especially during the off season. There's plenty of room for you, Mr. U, on this show, especially during the off season. I love your candor. Go ahead, Bo.
Please I mean, Giants fans are they're going through it, right? Like they haven't put a good product out there, so I get it.
How are you guys? We're doing great. Now Mr. U's in the house. Come on, Mr. U. Commit to me here that you're going to come on the show. There's definitely a place for you on this show. And bringing you and Bo back together would be bringing back the class. Good stuff. All right, we're going to have a conversation. Thanks for being on. He's been popping around a little bit more. I love this guy. He's unbelievable. All right. With that said, anybody else out there want to add a comment? Because if you don't, Mel Farr's going to let everybody know how to get hold of you. I'm diehard doesn't mean I'm not dying.
Exactly. That's what I say. They're going through it.
There you go. You're the best, Mr. U. All right, there you go. All right, Mel. Before I lose my voice, it's already raspy to begin with. It got a lot of work last week. Now let everybody know how they get a hold of you. I know you have to get going shortly anyways.
So that can be reached on all the social media at Melfar Jr., Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever. You can find me at Melfar Jr. And then you can follow what we have going on for the youth down here in Georgia and also in Michigan at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
All right, Bo, I realize your information's on the screen, but my eyes, it's so small, you're going to have to verbalize this bad boy.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials, Football Talk with Bo, my YouTube channel right there on the screen at Football-Talk, Roku TV 5 days a week, and coming soon is 99.1 Sports Radio in Atlanta.
Hey, Bo, quick question for you, because we're going to be bringing some stuff on there about the Senior Bowl pretty soon, too.
You moving to Atlanta, Bo?
What's that?
You moving down here?
Nah. I'm doing it from here. It'll be nationally syndicated on iHeartRadio, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
So how was your experience over at the Senior Bowl?
Oh, it was fun. It was fun. Way too much to get into before we got to
right.
Get out of here today, but yeah, it was a blast. It was great getting to pick the brain of a lot of GM coaches and scouts, GMs that were all there. It gives you a chance to get around these kids, see them with NFL terminology instead of the college programs that they were with. So I mean, it was a good experience overall, and it was a little bit more hectic than I was expecting. And so the next time I go, I definitely need to bring a camera guy, because your question and answer period in between practices was 10 minutes, which includes getting on and off the field. So you're running. And for you to try and get your camera and talk, it was not the best to do solo, which is why one of them, when I was talking to Mike Kafka, my camera had shifted. I didn't know. And so I got this great view of the stands, even though the audio is still fine. But I went back and watched it and I was like, that's terrible.
Hey, by the way, are you still doing that show with Coach Bono, or is he taking a little time off with you as well because he's signed up with his other deal?
Yeah. So, I mean, he's doing a international NFL coaching situation for the next 9 weeks. Right. And so, yeah, we're postponing our show until he's back. Right. It sounds like he's running like crazy over there.
Yeah, I talked to him today. He was at the airport in Atlanta. I just happened to catch him.
Yeah, I'm proud of the guy. Hey, listen, you know what? We gave him a football fix on here. Now the guy's out there doing, hey, I love Coach Bono. He's the best. Great stuff. All right, Bill, I know you have to get going, or you have a couple minutes, or we're at 52 minutes after the hour here, 8:52. So if you have to get going, Mel, that's okay. Everything's in there. George Eichhorn is next.
Yeah, you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune website. I'm right under the Motor City Tribune. And at the end of my column, I have a link to my book, which is called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, which is chronicling, I would say at least probably 90 years, 80 years of broadcasting in the Detroit area. All the great names, all the big stars, Ernie Harwell, Ray Lane, George Kell. And by the way, Scott, happy birthday. I know you echo my sentiment. Ray Lane, Razor Lane, 95 years old today. Oh, what a great guy. A good friend of ours.
Well, I know we had a chance to see him when I was back there at the party. Ray Lane, when you talked to him, send my regards to him. I don't know.
I sure will. Follow me at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter at SanGSports99. You can also follow me on LinkedIn as well as Facebook and all those social media platforms. So glad to be part of this show, as I have been. And Scott and I go back 45 years in the business with the original Sports Exchange program.
Yeah, we sure do. We keep the Sports Exchange alive and well. But glad to have Mr. U back in the house. Hopefully we'll get him back on the air soon enough.
Mr. U, yeah.
This guy is a lot of fun to talk to. He's one of the most humble guys on the planet. But we got to work on getting him back on here, especially now during the off season. This guy's unbelievable. All right, Candy, take us the rest away.
Yes, Terry, thank you for joining us tonight. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written, the book, by Scott, our host, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword is written by none other than George Eichhorn, the two that have been in the business for 45 years, longer than me and Bo combined. By far. But I do want to put out a little shout out. I want to say thank you to Scott for getting me credentialed for the Super Bowl week. We just got back from New Orleans. We were not at the official game, but we did all the lead up events. You're going to see some great content. So keep coming over to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Look for all the great interviews that Scott had. There were some really fun ones. Some of them were former football players. One of them was a veteran, and what the NFL is trying to promote with veterans. Some of them was former players. Some of them were current players. Some of them were former. He did one with, if you don't remember, from Mike Golick. He got a quick interview with him and some other great contents. He actually talked to Scott, and I know this was one of your proudest moments, that someone you had never interviewed before. And when we were at Fox, who was it?
Oh, I love Carissa Thompson.
Well, who was the other one that you would wanted to get?
Terry Bradshaw.
So
Terry Bradshaw. Hey, Carissa's a sweetheart. I really enjoyed Carissa a lot. You're going to bring it all out there now, Candy. Like Jimmy Johnson, who I'll mention down the road. Hey, aren't you glad you gift wrapped Barry Switzer championship ring? That'll be a clip that you guys eventually hear with that. Carissa Thompson's an absolute sweetheart. She is adorable. No, more importantly, a humble person. And who's the other one I'm missing? Yeah, Bradshaw. I love that guy.
Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, you get all of those. I mean, and he interviewed former players when they were talking about concussions and NIL and some of that. One of the things he talked about with Jimmy Johnson, and this is something that I didn't know, Jimmy Johnson is one of the only people that won a national championship as a player. As a coach, he won a national championship in college, and then he won a Super Bowl. So he's one of the only ones that's won it as a player and as a coach for both. So he's won all three, which I thought was really cool. A lot of other great content going to be coming out. A lot of pictures that we'll be putting up on our website. So definitely check back at our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. It was an honor, Scott, to be there, to be your camera person. Like Bo said, you needed a camera person. Bo, my services might be available. You need to talk.
Hey, Bo, I hate to say this, my brother. I one-upped you because I had her. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble. But if you ever need Candy and you can get her in, take her. She's the best. I've been to 4 other Super Bowls, but I'm going to tell you one thing about her. She was spot on. She was. I kept that woman busy, and she stood there and took every last video there was. And over the next several weeks, you guys are going to see them.
At times, Bo, I had 2 cameras going. One was focused in on them interviewing, and then one was taking pictures of them interviewing. Because one of his interviews, he actually had a former player interrupt the interview, which I thought was funny and cool too.
Yeah, Marcus Allen, I was going to spit it out.
Well, I was going to leave a couple of teasers out there, but
forget it. Just get it out there. Marcus Allen was pretty cool, though. We have that photo. She'll put it. Let me tell you one thing about Katie Ebley. She's going to go out there and do a photo album for the South Florida Tribune when she gets around to do it. She was unbelievable. Bo, like I said, if you ever need her, no problem. She's available to you because you're part of the team, but she's unbelievable. Without her, this Super Bowl was unbelievable to begin with, but having her around made my life a whole lot easier. Nothing like having somebody that has your back, and literally in more ways than one. And I'll leave it at that. So, with that said, that does it for this edition of Inside the Picks. And you're going to see a lot of these episodes were 4, 5, 6 topics, and we'll try to keep it under 60 minutes if we can. That's the way the show's going to go, clips and so forth. So we appreciate Mel Farb for being on, Candy, George, Bo, and I'm glad to be here. Coach Bono, keep up the good work where you're at. Welcome back, Ralph. Looking forward to being on your show on Saturday. I'll whip you guys back into shape. We're going to have a good time. We're going to be on fire up on Thursday night. So on behalf of Candy, Malfar Jr., George Eichhorn, Bo, my name is Scott Morgan, Route the Motor City Man. I'll thank you for everybody in the chat room and everybody out there all over the place for tuning in and watching. We will see you next Tuesday night. Take care, everybody, and have yourself a great week. Bye now.
Bye now.